Emergency meeting. There was a malicious attack on the chain. The chain even partitioned last night, but too long didn't watch. Everything's totally fine. Let's talk about it. If you're just happy you're in a blockchain ecosystem where the blockchain heals itself when these kinds of things happen, or if you're finding value in these videos, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies DRep address and the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. Okay, everybody, thank you for joining. Let's see who's here. David M. Jensen is here. Thank you for joining on short notice. Jay Marie is here. H-Coin Whale is here. Jay Marie says this might be the moment of unity we've been looking for. Yeah, I kind of feel that way. I feel that way about this. Martin P, thanks for joining. BTC 7. Wow, that is yeah, that is quite the number to see. Martin P says, I guess this is about the bug attack. Yep. It's yeah, I mean, it's yeah, this was kind of an attack on our whole chain. We're going to talk about it real quick. So this will just be a quick one. Ryan, hi, thanks for joining. Jordan America, what happened? We're going to talk about it. Ben Ryan, thanks for joining. Rulo, hola. Otis Frichov, emergency meeting to discuss the partitioning of the chain last night. We're just going to go through it real quick, so I won't keep everybody on too long. The Notorious Spy says, yo, let's go, Notorious Spy. Estamos arriba. Renee, thank you for joining. X-File Fletch says, let's go. Crinkle says, I want blood. Yeah, I think a lot of people do right now. Yep. Rob, thank you for joining. Cruncha, great. Okay, glad to hear it. It's a good time in the UK. Rulo says, class action. Sue, just got out of bed and see all this mess. Yeah, it's a mess. Yeah, everything's fine. Okay, so first off, I just want to say, Thomas Kirkpatrick, thanks for joining. Cardano Shepherd. Yeah, let's talk about it. Okay, so this morning, a lot of people woke up and saw, so you can see this is some CCTV footage of the SPOs actually out, fixing the blockchain. Actually, it was really last night was really IOG out fixing the blockchain, and then all of the SPOs hustling this morning to do what needed to be done. We're going to talk about it though. This is actual footage. This is what the inside of the blockchain actually looks like. It looks oddly like a salt flat, but so everybody saw this video this morning from Charles. Blue Mammal says, I quit my job to watch this live. Oh God, you scared me for a second. When I saw it, you scared me for a second. So in the X post, I did say too long didn't watch, everything's going to be fine. So hopefully nobody's actually panicking here. So this is an emergency meeting only in the sense that this is emergent news that I thought everybody should know about. Okay, so Charles kind of laid it all out in this video. So what happened was there was this library from like 2022. And someone used an exploit related to that library. This emerged on the testnet. Last night. And IOG noticed it. And apparently, immediately, IOG engineers started creating a patch for this little exploit. So the exploit allowed for a malicious transaction, to be broadcast on the chain. So IOG went to work because they noticed this on the testnet. Then someone, and we'll get to who that someone might have been, someone decided to broadcast that same transaction in their. I'll let them describe what actually happened. But someone decided to broadcast that same malicious transaction on mainnet. So in the Western Hemisphere, this would have been in the middle of the night for you. If you're closer to UTC, when would this have been for you guys? This would have been like this morning, I think. But anyways, what happened was IOG put together a new node release for everybody to move up to. That was 10.5.3 that Charles is talking about here. And it's not easy to It's not like the easiest update. There was a bunch of scrambling and people had to do different things to get 10.5.3 to work. But if you were in the IOG technical Discord in the SPO mainnet room, what you saw for the last several hours was basically every single SPO in Cardano in there scrambling to fix every single stake pool as quickly as possible. So basically what happened was the malicious transaction that had previously been broadcast on testnet was also broadcast on the mainnet. It caused a partition in the chain. If you aren't familiar with how blockchains work, I think most of you probably are, but if you don't understand what we're talking about here, the blockchain is literally a chain of blocks, right? It's a ledger, and the blocks in the ledger are chained together, if you will. And what can happen is certain types of malicious transactions can cause a split in the chain, a partition in the chain. And then you have sort of, we'll call it the fake chain and the good chain, the bad chain and the good chain. So the bad chain builds more blocks that are linked to the block that contained the malicious transaction. The good chain contains the chain that doesn't have that malicious transaction in it, right? So the beautiful thing about the Cardano blockchain, the reason why I said too long didn't watch, everything's fine, is because Cardano has a beautiful architecture that allows it to self-heal. Basically what happens is something like this happens, this partition in the chain, the good chain just continues on. And luckily the IOG engineers noticed this even before it hit main chain, apparently. Before it hit mainnet, they were already working on the fix. The fix was released while most of you were sleeping. SPOs started adopting the fix, the new node software with the fix in it. And everybody throughout the course of today is going to be slowly moving onto the good chain. So a lot of SPOs, approximately 60% of the chain I read. This is all very early, so apologies if any of this information isn't totally accurate, but this is roughly what's going on. So about 60% of the chain was on the versions of the node software that were affected. And if you delegate with AOS, don't worry, we were unaffected. AOS just happened to be on a version of the node software that was completely unaffected by all this. We were on the good chain from the start, and we're on the good chain now. We didn't have to do anything. So everything was fine for the Army Spies stake pool. But something like 60% of the network was on an affected node version. So 60% of the SPOs today are sort of moving to whatever version of the node software they were on, something between, what was it, 10.1.4 to 10.5.2. They're all updating to this version right here, 10.5.3. And whenever you update, you run into little snags here and there. And so there are people from IOG in that SPO mainnet room in the Discord helping everybody update. And it's pretty phenomenal to see. Like, if you somehow didn't have faith in the Cardano SPOs, just go into that room in the IOG technical Discord, SPO mainnet, and you will see an amazing array of SPOs all in there hustling like crazy. Some of them were probably up all night hustling to fix this problem. IOG engineers were up all night hustling to fix this problem. We truly have an amazing ecosystem, guys. We have this fantastic ecosystem. When things like this happen, the blockchain, our blockchain, Cardano, basically heals itself. And, it's just a matter of the SPOs who end up on the bad chain moving over to the good chain, which is just a matter of updating their node software. No harm, no foul. Everything's good. And the chain just continues on. So it's beautiful to be in this kind of blockchain and not a blockchain that has to turn itself on and off. I think I won't name any names, but we're all aware of certain blockchains where this happens. So before we move on to who we believe is the perpetrator of all this, let me hit the comments real quick. Xfile Fletch says, let's go. Let's see. We were below this. Let's see. NetWalker is Ada Safe. Yep, Ada Safe. Thomas Kirkpatrick's here. Let's see. Okay. Ada is quantum. So chill. It's true. Ada is chill because when stuff like this happens, it doesn't like wreck our blockchain. We're fine. We have this beautiful architecture. It self-heals. This is the way blockchain should be, but few are. So do normal ADA holders need to do anything? Nope. You don't need to do a damn thing. You're good, NetWalker. You're so good. You don't need to do anything. The blockchain has already healed itself. Your stake pool operator is probably hustling like crazy to make sure everything's okay. We all were this morning. I won't even tell you the so I've mentioned many times this channel. I'm the only one involved in this channel, but there are other people involved in the stake pool, and the other people involved in the stake pool are kind of like me. We sort of move around the world occasionally, and this was a very inconvenient time for this to happen based on who I had to be on the phone with and where they were in the world, how far from home they were in the world. But we kind of hustled and figured out that we were actually fine. But there were some crazy moments this morning for all of the SPOs, I think, including myself and the other people I had to be on the phone with this morning. I won't dox their location, but definitely I had to interrupt. Definitely we had to interrupt some things. It was very unexpected for this to go down, but we took care of everything. Didn't have to do anything. We're good. A lot of other SPOs, same thing, had to disrupt everything. Some of them woke up in the middle of the night and fixed this. So a lot of hustling, but as a normal ADA holder, you're good. You don't need to do anything. Cardano is beautiful. The chain takes care of itself. The SPOs take care of what they need to. Martin P says, still the discarded chain will leave real world losses, not small ones. Yeah, I mean, so there are problems with this. I don't want to say that the partitioned bad chain, I'm not saying there are no losses. I'm saying for the average Cardano holder who, wasn't involved in some kind of there are people, I saw people already mentioning this morning that they were, involved in some kind of a transaction, some kind of a DeFi play, and they got liquidated because of this transaction. That's all going to have to be sorted out. But yeah, we're not saying that we're not saying there was no damage. There were no damages from this chain. I'm saying for the average ADA holder who was just hodling their ADA yesterday on chain, hodling their ADA today on chain, not involved in any potential lobster traps, they're fine. But yeah, we're already seeing reports that people got liquidated in DeFi positions because of this partition. So this is certainly true. But I don't want to minimize the losses of anybody who suffered losses because of this. But this is one type of lobster trap. This is the kind of thing, whenever you give up custody of your ADA, like if you just had your ADA on your ledger, like this person asked the question, if you hold on ledger, if you were holding your ADA on a ledger yesterday and you're holding your ADA on a ledger today, this is exactly what I was doing with all my ADA in between yesterday and today. You were fine. You didn't get lobster trapped. The people who gave up custody in various ways, they might have been affected, like the person who said they got liquidated because of this partition just last night. This is a type of lobster trap. And this is the type of lobster trap that wasn't even the fault of, probably wasn't even the fault of the unless they were susceptible to this because of something weird having to do with their architecture. The DeFi platform wasn't even at fault for this. The DeFi platform didn't even get hacked. They didn't even do anything malicious. It's just that, when you give up custody, you might be in a lobster trap, and sometimes the lobster trap isn't even the fault of the person who had custody of your ADA, like could have been the case with this. This is all going to shake out. We don't really know what the ramifications were with this for people in various types of DeFi platforms, but we're going to find out about all that in the coming days, I'm sure. But good, valid point by Martin P here. Thank you, Beamer House, for joining the emergency meeting. I thought there were probably a lot of people out there who, because we were scrambling this morning to make sure everything was good at the stake pool, I felt like there were probably a lot of people out there who didn't have the same information I had. So I thought I'd just make sure there was no asymmetry of information between me and everybody in the Army Spies. So this is the discussion that's going to be happening a lot over the next few days. Whenever this kind of thing happens, there are kind of like two camps. There are multiple camps, but two big camps. One camp will be saying code is law. Code is law. You know, if you lost money during this partition, you know, somehow code is law, too bad. There will be other people saying, hey, we should go back and replay some of those transactions to fix things, you know, whatever the fix might be. You know, there'll be people saying things like that, and a lot of people will be saying code is law. So GG Capo makes a separate point, which I think is valid. We should allocate Catalyst funds for bug bounties so white hats can report issues gracefully. Yeah, I think that's, you know, hard to debate that. That makes sense. Cruncha says UK sucks. I just meant good time in the UK to mean you're normally not great for us UK fiat miners. Oh yeah, no, I understood. I understood what you're saying. I understood what you were saying the first time, for sure. Instead of punishing attacker, we should reward those who find flaws in the system. Otherwise, how can we become world operating financial system if something like this can happen? Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things that, okay, so here's the thing though. The attacker could have just run this on testnet and not on mainnet. This was already detected on, apparently, if I'm understanding the timeline correctly, this was already detected on testnet before it was run on mainnet. This is still very early. This has all happened in the last, you know, the information's all come out in the last couple hours. So if that's the case though, I think, you know, I think the signaling was already done by the testnet. I don't think you can say that there was any, you know, any sort of informational signaling going on with broadcasting that transaction on mainnet. Okay, Martin P says partitioning is a misnomer. It's actually an independent fork, like a chimera with multiple heads. Yeah, I mean, this is, if you go back in the history of blockchains, this has happened many, many times with many different blockchains for various reasons. You know, famously the DAO hack, which was a reentrancy attack, you know, ended the DAO. Most of you won't know there was a thing once called the DAO that resulted in the fork that made Ethereum break their immutability and produced the Ethereum Classic Ethereum fork. That's what that fork was. So this has happened many times. I agree. It is a fork. You know, I mean, you can say, I mean, I think, you know, when we call it partitioning, you know, we're just using like the sort of the common, you know, common dictionary definition of a partition, which is sort of just to divide. We can use that language very differently in a technical sense, but I think when Charles used that language in this video and when I use it right now, I just mean dividing. You can substitute the word fork there if you want to. It is a fork, but it's a little bit, we're being a little euphemistic. Like fork is scary. When people hear fork, they get real scared because they think it's going to be something like the DAO hack, where, you know, a bad thing happened. They actually broke the immutability of the Ethereum blockchain and rolled back transactions. And it produced, you know, a lot of people philosophically had big problems with that, and it produced the Ethereum Classic chain. So this is something different. This is the blockchain just sort of self-healing itself because this transaction forked the chain, you know, so that means it's okay. Pucky Hawk, that's fair. We cannot have an emergency till after coffee. I have had a couple of coffees this morning while we were sorting things out, and my coffee cup is empty now. Unfortunately, maybe I can, who knows, I might even get a refill while we're on this video. We'll see how that goes. Ada is flying on another chain. It is flying another chain. Yeah, I mean, the bad chain is out there for sure. And a lot of SPOs currently are still on the bad chain. You know, like something like 60% of the network was affected. So yeah, the other chain is out there. Is AOS as stake pool run ready also into the night tokens? So the first phase of Midnight has eras. We won't get too much into this because it's not, I've talked about this a bunch of times recently on the live streams, but Midnight has eras. Hilo, Kukolu, Mohalo, Hua, they happen starting on December 8th, starting in Q1, starting in Q2, starting in Q3. So SPOs will go live in Mohalu, which is they'll go online in Mohalu, which is Q2. First midnight is going to be a federated mainnet. SPOs won't even be able to be on mainnet when it goes live in Q1. In Q2, SPOs will start making blocks, and that'll first happen as part of an incentivized testnet. So we've got a while. We're going to take a look as a stake pool. AOS is going to take a look at how the network looks, how the economics work out, because like I said, there's other people involved in the stake pool, just 2 other people. And we need to make sure it works from a time and economic basis. But nope, NetWalker. I think you already asked this question, but no, you don't need to do anything. Calm ADA is quantum. Texas 420, you are right. ADA is calm. Everything's good in ADA. Amazing to watch everyone come together in real time. Sir James, you're right. It was amazing. Charles even talked about it in the video. Like IOG came together with the CF, came together with Emergo in London. In London, they all came together and worked this out. Crunchy Cat says, we want Alien Rundown. I had a feeling this was going to come up, so we won't turn this into an Alien Rumor Rundown video. This is really an emergency meeting, just so everybody knows what's going on. And we got more details we got to cover on this. But everybody should be aware, the Dan Farah documentary, Age of Disclosure, is coming out today. This is the one that was aired several months ago in Austin, Texas. Joe Rogan and a few people were invited to it. They had a screening. Everybody said it was amazing because there are something like 23 government officials who are all going to tell you that aliens are a thing, including the Secretary of State, I think former heads of the CIA. I haven't seen it yet. It's live right now. You can get it on Prime Video. It's like $23, $24, something like that. I'm going to watch it probably as soon as we get done here. Or at some point today, I'm going to watch it. I'm very excited to see it. But you're going to see people from the from either the DoD or the DIA, like specifically tell you they've seen alien bodies and alien craft with their own eyes in this documentary. Someone we talked about this when that little clip came out back at the time of the Austin screening, but this documentary is the documentary where someone from, I think he's from DIA, is actually going to tell you he's seen an alien body. So for what it's worth, I know some people don't want to hear that, but that's happening today, whether you like it or not. Okay, Jabtella says, no, just hold. This was actually a great live demonstration of how a real decentralized blockchain can survive major malicious attacks. Yeah, I mean, the strength of Cardano is the decentralization. You saw that this morning. You know, a good portion of the SPOs were on affected nodes. Some were not. The ones who were on affected nodes, huge number of them in the Discord, figuring things out, working it out, identifying, am I on the good chain or the bad chain, which is pretty easy to tell. You could just, even if you had no idea, even if you couldn't tell which chain you were on, you could just give people the IP and port address of your relay node, and you could easily find out in that chat whether you're on the good chain or the bad chain. So if you're an SPO and you don't really know what's going on and you're like, I have no idea if I'm on the good chain or the bad chain, just go into the SPO mainnet chat room in the IOG technical Discord. And if you have no idea how to figure it out, you can just tell people, the IP and port address of one of your relay nodes, and they'll tell you if you're in the good one or the bad one. And then you can get to work fixing it just by updating to 10.5.3. Charles is giving you the link right here. So you've got all the tools within your grasp right now to fix this if you are an SPO on the bad chain, even if you don't really know what's going on. Okay. Risky Capital says, even in failing, Cardano does it better. It's true. I mean, this could happen. This could happen in any chain, and your chain has to be built. The fundamental architecture has to be able to handle this kind of thing, and Cardano does it quite well. Neo Chad says, I stumbled across this. Good to see you, Neo Chad. Me and my hose money is all invested in ADA. Game over. So no, this is not that kind of event. This is the kind of thing that's going to happen over and over again in any blockchain ecosystem. There are always going to be little bugs like this, and the validators just have to update. It just has to be patched, and the validators just update their nodes. This kind of thing is always going to happen. Network says, cool, thank you. I've never touched my ADA in ages. It's on Ledger and staked in one of the pools. Was worried for a second as it's a lot of ADA. Yeah, as you should be. I mean, this is the kind. That's why this is an emergency meeting, so we can get the information out there. What everyone really wants to know is what's the story with that AOS intro music? I wrote that a long, long time ago. I wrote that probably like 15 years ago. I made that in some software that was prevalent at that time called Fruity Loops. This was like a variant of that called FL Studio, but I wrote that a long time ago, and it's kind of a joke. It's a little bit of an inside joke because I'm not like I wouldn't say I'm good. I'm not. I'll just say it. I'm not good at writing music, but at the time, I just kind of wrote that, and I have some friends who are legit musicians, and it was kind of a joke at the time because they were very, very much into their craft. And I sort of wrote this, and in my head, I was like, wouldn't it be funny if somehow this thing I just put together as someone who's not good at writing music, if it gets heard by millions and millions of people, and my friends who slave away at their craft of being musicians, and that's like all they talk about, all they're into. Wouldn't it be funny if this little track that I just wrote, wouldn't it be funny if millions of people heard this one day, as opposed to my friends who spent like decades building up their craft as musicians? And that's indeed been the case. I think if you could take all of the music my friends have ever made, these are people who like, play live shows, in bars, things like that, all of the music they've ever played has not been heard as much as that intro track, which is kind of hilarious. I mean, the world is not fair. I'll say the world is not fair in that sense, but that's what that intro music is. I wrote that a long time ago. Martin P says that's a point for Algorand. They have instant finality and not probabilistic. Okay, yeah. Charles always has lobster at his mic. Yeah, we named that as a community. That's Logan the Lobster. That was one of the first governance, like on-chain governance actions, I think. Charles, I mean, this is before DReps, but Charles just kind of let everybody vote to see what the lobster would be named, and I believe he's named Logan. Yeah, Eric Williams, it's an emergency. We're talking about the malicious attack on the blockchain last night, which is fine. Too long didn't watch. Everything's fine. He's trying hard to hold in the laugh. Real question: is our night safe? Well, our night has not been given to us yet, so I hope it's safe. I mean, I guess you could say if it's not safe, then the Midnight Foundation would they just minted it the other day, so they would just mint a new version of Night and declare that one. They would just PNG that one. They would just declare that one persona non grata. So it would be okay. Why is this serious? Do you all know how much money has been lost with AWS DNS issue? How much money has been lost with the Cloudflare bug last week? So this is serious. This is serious for us, not in the monetary loss sense necessarily. For some people it is. I mean, apparently some people got liquidated, and we don't know how big their positions were that they got liquidated in, but this is this is the kind of stuff we talk about. This is Cardano. So when there's a malicious attack on our chain, we talk about it. That's why it's serious. Okay, Jeff Burns says, I missed the beginning, not going back. I never get to watch live. Go back after. What up, Mr. Army? Love you, brother. Good to see you, Jeff Byrne. Everything's fine. Don't worry. There was a malicious attack on the chain. The SPO scrambled. Everything's fine. AOS stake pool was unaffected just because we just lucked out because of the node version we were on. So we are on the correct chain. We were unaffected by this. The rest, like 60% of the network was affected, and they were all scrambling this morning. So the SPOs in Cardano are amazing. They all scrambled this morning, and throughout the course of today, you'll see, a majority of the SPOs will get on the right chain, sooner or later, and the right chain will take over from the malicious chain. Everything's good. So this is the kind of thing that happens all the time in blockchains. This is fine. Yeah, I mean, Vitalik, he's probably just, cruising around Asia doing his thing. So I think doesn't even notice. He doesn't even care, I don't think. So James Syracuse, thanks for joining. Simon Schubert, thank you for joining. First time I catch you live. Yeah, thanks for being here. Cardano forks every time we do an update. This is literally how we upgrade. True. Yeah, I mean, yeah, node updates are when we have the reason we call them forks is because they're forks. We literally call them forks. So yeah, I mean, in Cardano it's very seamless and smooth. So yeah, this is all good. This is fine. Jeff Burns says, I was hoping it would never happen to us, but we are here, so just got to chin up and deal with it. It's not that this is not that serious. This is like totally fine. Okay, so let's get to this part of it. So Ryan is pointing out the next thing we need to talk about is the next tab we're going to go to here. Ryan says, I don't think this was an attack. I think this was Dev trying to replicate a bug on testnet to see if it was possible on mainnet, but he failed to properly isolate his network and it escaped. That's what he says. That's what he says. Let's look. Okay, so Beamer, we're gonna look at that in just a second. Beamer House says 2200 hours where I am. I usually catch your live stream in the morning around 6:30 6:30 hours. Nice to catch you live on a Friday night. Yeah, thanks for joining, Beamer House. So let's go, because I know it's late for some of you. I don't want to keep you too long before we get to the punchline here. So let's not bury the lead. So this emerged what was it, just 3 hours ago, just barely over 3 hours ago, this post emerged. So this is Homer J AAA. Sorry, I know the word isn't enough given the impact of my actions. Cardano folks, it was me who endangered the network with my careless action yesterday evening. It started off as a let's see if I can produce the bad transaction personal challenge, and then I was dumb enough to rely on AI's instructions on how to block all traffic in and out of my Linux server without properly testing it on testnet first, and then watched in horror as the last block time on Explorers froze. I know it's just some words on the screen, but I felt awful as soon as I realized the scale of what I've caused. I know there's nothing I can do to make up for all the pain and stress I've caused over the past X hours. Difficult to quantify the negligence on my behalf. I'm sorry. I truly am. I didn't have evil intentions in my heart. It wasn't anything that was done for any financial gain or bragging rights. Yes, but Rat's pool ID. I had to pick some pool ID. So this was directed at Charles. If you don't know Charles, back in the day when the SPOs all went live on mainnet, Charles started a small pool that's called the Rats pool with an employee at IOG. He and that employee at IOG just had a small pool, and the purpose of the pool is not to, like for Charles to make extra money or something. It's like a small pool. I think it's just for him to firsthand experience what SPOs are experiencing on net. But Homer J is saying here he directed the transaction at the Rats pool ID. Anyways, he says, I'm ashamed of my carelessness and take full responsibility for it. And whatever consequences will follow, I'm sorry. I'm a bad human being. I'm sure part of me. So here's the key part, though. Here's the part that kind of has people raising an eyebrow. I'm sure a part of me, because all of this, people are like, okay, this was super reckless if you let this happen. But then they read this part. I'm sure a part of me deep inside was a bit frustrated with some things, people in recent months, years, just as I'm sure some part of me had some quiet confidence that blocks would continue being made in the worst case scenario, but I know it's just words on screen at this stage. I didn't sell any ADA before my testing and production disaster or short it. Don't even know how to do that or worked with anyone on this or plan it long and hard. I do have a lot to lose as a consequence of my actions. Sorry, Cardano community, I truly am. And he posted this right in the SPO mainnet chat in the IOG technical Discord. So people had a lot of things to say about this. Some people were a little more blunt than others. This was actually my reaction exactly. I was definitely with Brothership Pool on this one. Good of you to get clean, but so yeah, people had some reactions to this. The great thing about Cardano, though, I think we're all pretty rational. So, people didn't really go crazy over this. They just went to work trying to fix it. Obviously, the IOG engineers went to work in the middle of the night, pushed the patch, and all the SPOs went to work trying to fix things too. So CrunchyCat says, on midnight, can ETH take over the stake pools? Can you take over the stake pools? Can there be a moment where there are a very small amount of ADA stake pools minting blocks because the other chains have become more prominent? I don't think we really have the, okay, so Charles has talked about how he wants the validation to be sort of Minotaur validation, if you will. I don't think I personally know enough yet about how all that's going to work to answer your question. I don't think I would like to know how all that's going to work. I don't think we really have enough details yet on how it's going to work. Maybe that's hidden somewhere in the documentation, kind of like the scavenger mine API specs were hidden in the documentation. And maybe I just haven't seen it, but I don't dare answer that question because I don't know the answer yet. Oh, this is Sir Corin. Oh, okay. Okay. Thanks for letting me know. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Um, yeah, okay. Good to see you. Thanks for letting me know. Yeah, if you guys, if there's another name I know you by very well and your name is different here, this was kind of the names we have here are kind of all a result of YouTube changing its sort of, ID system. But yeah, feel free to let me know if you have a different name that I might know you by. Rulo says, so stupid, so easy to trace back to him, a bad actor that deserves jail, most probably. Yeah, I mean, people were saying that in the comments, and you notice this only came out, these comments only came out after Charles in that video identified the exact wallet and the name of the pool that person who that wallet belonged to started during the ITN. So obviously what could have happened, I'm not saying this is the case, but what I immediately suspected was that the that pool, I think it was like 111 pool or something like that in the ITN. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong, but I think I remember Charles saying that. You can check Charles's video. He shows the exact pool. I'm guessing that pool was tied to this account, this Homer J account. I'm guessing it was deducible that it was him, and he may have been forced into making this post by that. I could be wrong. Maybe he just, felt guilty. Maybe he just felt guilty, and maybe it was untraceable, and he just felt guilty and wanted the world to know he's just being honest. That's possible too. But my immediate gut suspicion was that ITN pool, there was like some proof somewhere in socials, and analysts were going to track down that was his, like he had mentioned that was his pool at some point. That's what I immediately suspected. Beamer House, happy birthday. Is it was like the last 24 hours? I know you said it was like 2,200 hours. Was the previous day your birthday, or is it your birthday in 2 hours? I'm guessing right now it's your birthday, like the previous day. I hope you had a great birthday if that's the case, and thanks for being here. Netwalker says, so what happens if SPO you stake with doesn't upgrade? Well, they're going to keep making blocks on the wrong chain. So you should, just hit them up. I would just message them on X. And I think, you might just want to hit them up and make sure they know what's happening. Feel free to direct them to this video, or even better, just direct them to the SPO mainnet chat room on the IOG technical Discord, and they'll get all the information they need. Yeah, you can just tell them they need to upgrade to 10.5.3. Ask them if they know if they're on the wrong chain or not, and they'll say yes or no. If they say no, they don't know, then direct them to that Discord where they can find out really easily, or they can just look on AdaStat. You can kind of tell by looking at AdaStat right now, or any other block explorer that's any other chain explorer that's for Cardano that's on the correct chain. So anyway, yes, we were unaffected. Jeff Byrne, we were unaffected, so we're good. Cardano with Paul, thank you for joining. And once again, you and Patty are legend. You guys are absolute legend for open sourcing the API miner during the scavenger mine. Thank you so much for that. Everybody who used it, please thank Paul and Patty for open sourcing that. That was legend, my friend. Thank you so much. Yeah. Let's see. Texas 420 says, look, buy the genuine Bitcoin in now. You're on it. I don't know what you mean by that. I don't know if I can quite decipher that one. Yeah. Everybody should be, after the scavenger mine, everybody should be loving Paul and Patty. They did not have to do that. They did not have to open source that at all. They could have just kept mining it themselves. And they're definitely legends for open sourcing that. That was amazing. Okay, can we still say the chain has never gone down? It didn't go down. It didn't go down. We just there was just a fork. There's a bad chain and a good chain, and the good chain's gonna, all the SPOs are moving over to the good chain, so everything's gonna be fine. I mean, this is the kind of thing that happens in blockchains. There are always, I could go back and recite the history of, various forks, various things that have happened in Ethereum. But the best example, if you want a really good one that's been analyzed to death, look at go read about the reentrancy attack in the DAO. It was literally called, this was a DAO that was called the DAO. It was basically going to be a giant venture fund in Ethereum. It was like the first big DAO that everybody talked about, and they literally called it the DAO. That's how sort of how big it was. And somebody drained the whole thing. I watched it happen live. Somebody started draining the whole thing through this clever reentrancy attack. And the way they fixed it, like a lot of people in Ethereum who were involved with the DAO got afraid that the SEC was going to start calling them, and they were going to get in, people were legit afraid they were going to end up in handcuffs. So what they did is they rolled back the Ethereum chain. They broke the immutability of the Ethereum chain. So that's like a really great example you can read about. But these kind of things happen all the time in blockchains, and good blockchains like Cardano heal themselves, and the good chain continues on, and the bad chain just kind of dies. Bad blockchain ecosystems have to turn themselves off and on when this kind of thing happens, but we're good. No downtime. No downtime. Yeah, no, it's all relative though, because I'm very happy for the IOG engineers who were up all night fixing this. So I think this is all relative. Paul says hard day on Cardano today, but a huge positive was CF, Emergo, and IOG working together for the good of Cardano. So much agree. Even Charles, he seemed relieved. That the three founding entities were able to come together and work on this. Hopefully they can build in this relationship going forward. I hope so. That'd be great. Okay, Jeff Burns says, you're right. I was watching Charles my break, and he said thanks to CF. Yeah. I was also surprised to hear that. I think everybody was kind of shocked to hear Charles being so grateful for anything coming out of the CF. That was great. That was fantastic. Youth promo says, where did you go? AOS didn't expect you around this hour. So yeah, I normally do the live streams about 7 hours from when this one started. I've been doing it that time just as an experiment. It was hard to decide what time was good. I'm hoping that time is working out for people. I know no matter what time I pick, it's not going to work out for some people, but I'm hoping that time is working out for some people at least. Bobby S. Bit says, Fruity Loops. Wow, that's some lore right there. Being a once semi-pro musician, I get that joke. Yeah, that's going back a ways. That's how old that track is. For sure. Awesome story for your. Yeah, that's 100% true. I wrote that, and I thought it was hilarious that I was able to write something that sounded, like music of that type, because that's something that's very foreign to me. And I played it for my musician friends who hated it. And it's like a small number. It's not like I'm surrounded by an orchestra or something. That's like a small number of musician friends, but I played it for them. And these are people who get paid to play music, like in bars. So not like we're not talking about arena performers or anything, but very much professional musicians getting paid every single week to play music, and they hated it. They absolutely hated it. So the hilarious irony is that millions of people have heard parts of that track, and it's way more than all of my musician friends, way larger than all their audiences combined ever, which is hilarious and unfair. The world is not fair. This is a good example of why the world is not fair. Brody, thanks for joining. Brody says, let's go. Thank you as always. Cardano is the best. Yeah, I think that's the moral of today. Cardano was the best. Cardano is the reason of DAWS's. Which type of DAWS do you mean? Corvus 400 says, "Hey, Cardano fam, first time watching AOS live, one of the best DReps." Thank you, Corvus. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. Crypto Wixter says, "Staking it in your AOS pool, would that also deliver NIDE tokens when you are staking in your pool?" Yeah. So, I don't know if you were here for it, but we just talked about this a few minutes ago. Somebody asked me the same question. So there's going to be eras in Midnight. The eras have names like in Cardano, but instead of being called, Basho, Byron, Shelley, Voltaire, they are called things like Hilo, Kukolu, Mohalu, and Ua. So Hilo starts on December 8th. Kukolu starts in Q1. In Q1, in Kukolu, it's going to be a federated mainnet. SPOs aren't even going to be on the mainnet. SPOs get on the mainnet in the next era, which is called Mohalu, that starts in Q2 of 2026. And there's going to be an ITN and incentivized testnet first. So we've got to look at it. We've got to look at the additional, the marginal increase in time that it requires and the economics behind it, and just make sure everybody's okay with it. I'm okay, good with it. I would love to do it, but I'm the only one involved in this channel. There's 2 other people involved in the stake pool. So we got to kind of look at it and make sure it makes sense. But I would love to do it. So we'll see. We'll see as soon as everything's kind of like getting closer. Old vitamin water. Yeah. Kristen, thanks for joining. 8 Eclipse. Yep. Happy to be here. So who are you asking? Are you asking Texas 420? Are you asking Texas 420? I will, if you're asking me, of course, I will never tell you exactly where I'm at. Flying Hambone says, "I just saw Charles's video on this. Wow. Yeah, that was my reaction too. AOS, I can vouch for him. This was an honest mistake. He has been tirelessly and thanklessly running testnet infra since the ITN for free. He's a good guy." Yeah, I mean, that's my impression too. In fact, it was kind of hilarious. Somebody I was talking to, when we were working this out earlier today, somebody I was talking to, Sir Corin, was like, they were like, "Oh, here's this thing that Homer just sent." And it was something to do with sort of diagnosing, which chain was doing what. And I was like, "Bruh, Homer, your boy Homer just confessed that the bug was his. He's the one that broadcast that transaction." And the person was blown away. So yeah, I think a lot of people are having the same reaction as you. I'm glad he came out. Some people are asking if this was a troll. I haven't seen any indication that this was a troll. This seems to be the case. But yeah, people are pretty blown away because you'd think this is a malicious attacker, and obviously that's what Charles was thinking. Charles was talking about the FBI. He certainly wasn't expecting that Homer would come out and admit to this. Sir Corin says, "For what it's worth, I do not know what he was doing, though, or I would have convinced him how dangerous it was, but I know he likes to tinker a lot, and I genuinely believe him." Yeah, it's all good. Like all of the, I trusted AI, for my firewall, and I shouldn't have done that. That's all good. But then this last part, this last part is the questionable part. I'm sure a part of me deep inside was a bit frustrated with some things, people in recent months, years, just as I'm sure part of me had some quiet confidence that blocks would continue being made in the worst case scenario. That part's a little, that part kind of cuts against the, the accidental narrative a little bit. I mean, obviously he didn't mean for this to happen, but, there's intent, there's negligence, and there's recklessness, and there's gross negligence, right? And there's extreme recklessness. So, seems like we've got one of those things going on here. Okay. Caleb says, "Thanks for updating us and being on top of this. This is why you're my SPO." Thank you for delegating. I appreciate it, Caleb. Brody is talking to Sir Corin here and says, "That's good to know. My sense is that our community is full of great people, so I'm not surprised." Yeah, this is my reaction too. Brody's reaction is the same as mine. When I saw this comment, I was like, yeah, this makes, I actually prefer it's this than like some highly trained team of, North Korean hackers, I mean, obviously they would have figured out some way to profit off it, but You know, I prefer that it's somebody who just made, you know, maybe an honest mistake than, you know, some like actual black hat attack. Kristen says, I don't know enough to cast blame. There's ups and downs this whole situation. The bug affecting things adversely, but no major losses. The chain didn't go down. Yeah, I mean, we did see, I don't know if you were on earlier. I mentioned that there were some people complaining this morning that they got liquidated from some DeFi positions because of this. So we don't know. We don't totally know if there were no losses, but for people who were just, you know, who were just hodling, who just had their ADA on their ledgers, who weren't in lobster traps, those people seem to have been, yeah, it seems like no impact on those people for sure. Flying Hambone, thanks for saying that. Appreciate it. But I mean, to be fair though, a lot of, yeah, we kind of, yeah, we were very lucky, but a lot of stake pools it was incredible. If you saw what the SPOs were doing today as a whole, the Cardano SPOs are amazing. Everybody was scrambling to do everything they could to fix this. Kristen says a scary time that made founding entities who have been fighting come together for a few moments. It is possible, but I don't expect a fairy tale ending by any means. Yeah, that's a fair read. I think it's a fair read, Kristen. Paul says, thanks, man. Appreciate that and your videos. Likewise, I appreciate your videos. Everybody, Paul does fantastic videos, especially interviews. Paul does a lot of great interviews. You guys should all go check out Paul's channel for sure. He does a lot of great content. Thanks, guys. Bot was awesome. Oh, that was awesome. Also, Silence at Home is cool too. If we ever get a bull market, you're going to have to start skipping some of these comments unless you just want to sleep again. Yep, that's true. I mean, this is like a very, very current event that everybody needs to know about. So this is a little busier than normal, but hence we call it the chain from now on. That's right. We've got the chain, and then we've got that other chain that we probably won't speak about much more in the future, you know, in the distant future. We won't even remember this really. And Yulrik, thanks for joining. Appreciate seeing you. Will Mofo Show says, hey, AOS, catching you live because I'm at work, about to head home. Heard the news and came to you. I'll catch up from the top. Was looking at some strats for my pet treat company on Cardano today. Oh, great. If you have a pet treat company, enter your info at Blue Pages. I talked about it. We showed it last night. There's you can go to Blue Pages ADA on X. And if you've got a real world company, a small company or a company that produces any kind of product or service, you could market to other Cardano people, put it in Blue Pages. And I think we should all, you know, hashtag do business on Cardano. If you've got a small business, this is perfect. Pet treat company, put it on Blue Pages. Let everybody see it. I'll show it. If you put it on Blue Pages, I will show your Blue Pages entry on a video. Just remind me, and I'll put it up on the video so everybody can see it. And yeah, if anybody's got a small business like this with some good or service you can sell to other Cardano people, put it on Blue Pages, and let's get the word out. Let's start doing business with each other. We're a big community. We can be a decent sized economic ecosystem. We can be our own economy. Let's do that. Jeff Burns says, off topic, but we need a DEX with no token, all ADA payout for LQ providers. I still provide LQ, but don't want a token, want ADA more. People might use DeFi if they weren't getting a token that just dumps. Yeah, fair. I mean, getting paid as a liquidity provider is only worth it if if there's value in the token that constitutes your remuneration. So that makes perfect sense. Yeah. Crypto Wixter, thank you for joining. I appreciate it. J. Marie, I used to make hip hop music. Also back in the day, I released a few songs on Stuff.io. Dope Cliff is the name. Okay, cool. I'll check that out. Oh yeah, and I haven't watched it yet, but J. Marie made a documentary on. Tell people about your documentary that's also on Stuff.io so that people can go watch it, can buy it and go watch it. J. Marie. What if they just do multiple bugged nodes coordinated attacks? So Praetor Arsonist 69. Yeah, I mean, the beauty of if we only had like 5 SPOs, then that would be problematic. But the reason why you want to be very decentralized is to make these kind of attacks harder. Like obviously what you're describing would work if, it's sort of like the archetype of this that people understand is a 51% attack in the proof of work context. If you can get 51% of the hash power in a network like Bitcoin, you can do malicious things on the network. So the cool thing about Cardano is that we have thousands of SPOs. We have thousands of SPOs. So the way the incentives work, though, if you spin up thousands of SPOs and you get, it'd require, like billions of ADA. You'd have to have like billions of ADA delegated to you. If that's the case, you'd have to become like one of the biggest multi-pool operators in all of Cardano, and we would all know about you long before you become the biggest multi-pool operator in Cardano, and the network would adapt and other SPOs would pop up. So you'd have to become the biggest multi-pool operator in Cardano by a long ways and control such a wider swath of the delegation in Cardano than any MPO does currently. So that's how we're protected against this in Cardano, because we're decentralized. So why is Canada not named Canada? And why the hell is Cardano done like really, really bad? Why is Canada not named Canada? I don't know the answer to that question. Why has Cardano done like really, really bad? So all altcoins have done really, really bad because of lack of liquidity. If I had to sum it up in one sentence, the problem is lack of liquidity. We actually talked about that last night on the live stream. It's crypto tends to do well in times of high liquidity, and 2025 has not been that kind of time. So Thomas Kirkpatrick says, I hope this bear flushes out all the junk tokens finally. 99% should go to zero, primary stables and real world utility. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of Ponzi schemes in crypto. Something else we talked about quite a bit over the last 2 nights, especially 2 nights ago. There's a lot of Ponzi schemes, and yeah, crypto would be better if they went away. Someone makes a mistake, and his name is Homer Simpson Hoimer. Laugh out loud. Yep. He definitely did it on purpose. Laszlo Weiss is straight up saying he definitely did it on purpose. Yeah, I mean, he's kind of saying he did it on purpose, right? It's sort of like his description kind of paints this picture of like a half accident, half on purpose. But then it's like when he mentions, how he was feeling, apparently I read that as how he was feeling towards Charles. I'm kind of like, it sounds like he did that on purpose, bro. Yeah, Laszlo says no chance it was an accident. Jeff Byrne, thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. No way, indeed. Yeah, that was early on. We talked about that a little bit earlier on. I should have. I didn't know it was going to come up. I didn't know that particular thing was going to come up, or I'd have grabbed that post. But we'll see. I mean, you never know though. Somebody just said, I was liquidated because of this. It could be It could be that wasn't true. It could be it was a very small amount. We don't know. We don't know anything about it. I'm sure those kind of details will come out in the coming days. Pucky Hawk says sanitizing the crypto market would make it very boring. We might as well go invest in NVIDIA instead. Valid point. Valid point. So this is Jay Murray's documentary. I made a documentary about Cardano called Community, a film about Cardano. It's available on Stuff.io. Thanks, buddy. Yeah, everybody should check it out. I haven't seen it yet. I want to see it. But yeah, I mean, these are the kind of things like Cardano should be its own economy. We should buy stuff from each other, digital, crypto-centric stuff like this, and also dog treats. Like we're mentioned up above, any of these goods and services that we can buy from each other. Will Mofo show his dog treat company. We should be doing business with each other. We should. I think a lot of us probably make stuff that we could do commerce with each other with. So, okay, Rulo says we need more than one type of node, more diversity, yeah, we do need node diversity. And that was something that we all voted to fund in the last budget. So I think the Cardano community is smart. Usually. And the Cardano community is smart. And definitely we voted heavily to fund node diversity. So hopefully that happens quickly. Oh, nice. Here you go. J. Marie, here you go. Alberto Serrano Chavez says, I got a copy of that J. Marie thesis podcast, love book / stuff. Nice. Okay. Nope. I've never played WoW. I could tell you guys a funny story about someone who played a role in something I did for a long time, who is who shockingly was like addicted to WoW. But I can't tell you that story because it would identify me too readily. But someone whose name many of you would know was shockingly very addicted to WoW when that person was pretty famous. So in some circles, famous in some circles, I'll put it that way. Maybe he was drunk testing and the red button was there and it was shiny. I mean, that's basically like the picture that's being painted here, right? Cruncha, thank you for saying that. The pain, please stop. I know that's we're all in like it seems like you always get kicked when you're already down like this. Like this is what happens. We're like already down. We're on the ground and some bystander comes out of the crowd and just kicks you in the ribs just for the hell of it. That's how I feel. That's how this felt for sure. And unless you've got fiat cash flow right now. If you've got fiat cash flow, you're like Jeff Byrne and you're just happy to DCA at these prices. That's how I would be if I had fiat cash flow right now. I would definitely be DCAing like crazy right now. Yeah, check out the blue pages. Let's get some real world businesses. So I did notice I was going through the blue pages last night and I noticed, it's like a lot of what I was thinking when we first talked about that concept was like real world businesses as opposed to on-chain businesses. Like right now it's a lot of on-chain businesses, but I think we also need the list that has real world businesses that are doing business on chain. I think that's different than on chain platforms that, are doing revenue. I think those are two different categories. They're kind of like there's overlap there, but I think they're two different categories. And I think what we really need is a lot of the, Will Mofo shows dog tree business. I think we need a lot of those on the chain doing business. So we'll talk about that next week probably, but can you tell us about the NIGHT tokens and how it's possible there are already NIGHT tokens on CoinGecko, for example? How is that possible? I didn't know that NIGHT tokens were already on CoinGecko. They've been minted. So the NIGHT tokens have been minted. And so the NIGHT launch is supposed to be Hilo, the 8th of December. So I haven't checked out CoinGecko, but yeah, we'll see. I'd be curious to know if there's I don't even want to use the word, but is there pre-trading? Your comment makes me ask the question, is there pre-trading going on? If so, that will be quite notable and people will have some things to say about that for sure. Jeff Burns says, and people already kind of discussed that question, before the tokens were already minted. So that's going to be a discussion that people have for sure. We'll get to that. We'll get to that when it happens though. But your post that it's already on CoinGecko is kind of leading into those questions though. I'll put it that way. Jeff Burns says, I feel like I'm the only person who wants price to go lower. Yeah, when I'm DCAing and when I'm fiat mining and DCAing, that's how I feel too, for sure. Martin P, maybe he got bribed with Solana. Yeah, maybe a bunch of Solana holders, like the isolated Homer J did a nice little human recruitment, project on him, and they recruited him and paid him some Solana. That would be the ultimate conspiracy. Yeah, a lot more people. I think this being a legit emergency meeting though probably had a big impact on that. So I thought it was important that people know what's going on, because if they haven't found out about it already because they're like at work or something, if they're in North America, I wanted people to have all the information so they wouldn't freak out about it when they saw later today. Kristen says, laugh out loud. Yeah, we're totally going to figure out who AOS is. All we got to do is call Leroy Jenkins. Yeah, no. Oh, if that's a reference to the person I was talking about who was addicted to WoW, it is definitely not someone named Leroy Jenkins. Weren't we supposed to be able to have nodes on phones? Charles said something about Mithril years ago. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know about nodes on phones, but I mean, having nodes on low powered devices definitely sounds good. Mithril makes it so that you don't have to do the old dataless, download the whole chain thing. So there are multiple night tokens. Oh, okay. So maybe what you saw on CoinGecko is a different night token. I hope that's the case, because I was going to be pretty disappointed if there was pre-trading going on. Like if somehow so what that would have indicated was that somehow insiders already had their coins and they were pre-trading. That would have been pretty scandalous. Unless it was disclosed in the documentation somewhere, that would have been pretty scandalous if that was happening. So, okay, that's great. If it's just other tokens named Knight, which, seems likely, that's like an obvious name for a token. So that sounds great if that's the case. Kristen says, yeah, we've got to make sure there is a distinction between the blue pages and Cardano Cube. Blue pages should be stuff. And, yeah, this is exactly how I feel. Like when I didn't see the blue pages. Nobody did, I think, until the live stream last night. And I kind of saw it live the same time everybody else did. But yeah, I don't think we need to rebuild Cardano Cube. I think we need a list of off-chain real world businesses who want to do business on chain. So I think Kristen hit it on the head there. We don't want to rebuild Cardano Cube. We want real world businesses who want to do commerce on chain. Hashtag do business on Cardano. Okay. Yep. What you're looking at the confession. What's on the screen right now is the confession at Cardano. Okay, there we go. Somebody Risky Capital is confirming. Okay, I'm kind of relieved. Thank you guys for confirming that. I'm kind of relieved to see that. Charles was in rage mode for sure. Yeah, Charles, he definitely wasn't happy about it, especially since it was directed at his pool. Pucky Hawk says, I still waste part of my life in WoW. I probably would have too if I had, during the time when WoW was very, very, very popular. I had absolutely zero recreational time for gaming. So I never, I to this day, I've never played WoW just because I was very, very, very busy during that time period. Okay, Pucky Hawk says, started doing that in 2004. Yes, I'm addicted. No, I don't need help. Yep. I think we've all felt that way about certain things at certain times for sure. Jeff Burns says, I'm in Ohio. Your normal stream is 11 p.m. Too late. So a 5 p.m. stream is greatly appreciated. Yeah, I feel bad about that. I know it's late for some people. I used to put out the old videos at 2 a.m. Eastern. So I think 1 a.m. Central is Ohio Central. And I know that was super late and people would mainly watch the playback. So I know it's the same thing now. People can't make the live, but they can watch the playback. And that's the vast majority. That's like 90% of people who watch it are watching the playback. So it's kind of intended to sort of replicate the same experience for those people. But yeah, apologies that you can't watch it live. Okay, so Alberto Serrano Chavez says, agree, blue pages for normies and regular products and services. Love this idea. Me too. Okay. OH. Okay, Ohio. It's Ohio, I think. Can you tell us something about AdaML, please, how it works? And also, I remember Charles said a long time ago, Cardano could be the new TCP/IP. I cannot tell you anything about that. Have not heard from Timmy the Cat in a while. I think Timmy the Cat is doing well, though. I think Timmy the Cat's doing well, but haven't heard from Timmy the Cat in a while. Yep. Alberto Serrano Chavez says he's a playback watcher as well. Yep. Okay. Prater Arsonist says, I guess my point is if one bug node caused that slowdown, imagine a competitor funded bugged staked pools. It was really a transaction. It was this malicious transaction that made use of this 2022 library, this old library. So imagine a competitor-funded bugged stake pools just slow down the network. It's not like Cardano has slashing to punish bad actors. Yeah. Oh, okay. So yeah. So before moving on, just to address this, yeah, I mean, there's ways that you can do malicious things to blockchains. Throughout the history of crypto, we've had this kind of thing happen. There have been malicious attacks. This would be a malicious attack on a blockchain. The beautiful part about Cardano is that, this is about, I mean, Charles described it as like the worst thing that can happen to a blockchain. And what did Cardano do? Cardano just kind of like rolls with the punches, and a few hours later, it's all good. So maybe not for that person that apparently got liquidated, but for the chain is good. The chain just kind of keeps rocking on. So we'd be good. Like I said, they can't um they can't really build enough stake pools to really attack the network the way they would need to. So yeah, we'd be good. We just roll on. Okay, did not know that. Thank you, Jeff Byrne. I did not know that. Okay, guys, I think we have covered everything, the high points on this. I wanted to keep this just a quick emergency meeting. We actually went too long, hour 10. I know it's Friday. A lot of people in North America are still working. In Europe, it's Friday night. You should already be partying. So apologies if I interrupted your workday or your partying. But I think this was an important thing. I wanted to get this information out there, at least the information I had. More information will come out in the coming days. We'll learn a lot more about this. But anyways, I hope everybody is having a great Friday day, Friday evening. If you're in Asia, it's already late for you or early, depending on how you're clocking that. But anyways, I hope everybody's having a great Friday. Hope you're looking forward to a great weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.